Today's video is brought to you by Squarespace. Let's talk about that project you've been holding off on for far too long. You know the one, that comprehensive gallery of pizza-themed underwear. Or maybe you're trying to sell some pizza-themed underwear and you need an online storefront. Or perhaps you need to put a menu online for your local restaurant which sells underwear-themed pizza. What am I talking about? Okay, maybe your ambitions aren't quite that weird, or maybe they are. Either way, this is where our friends at Squarespace come in. I've personally always been intimidated at the idea of getting my own domain and my own little slice of the internet, but it took me just a handful of minutes to get down the basics once I checked out Squarespace myself. It really is that easy. They walk you through everything. And after that, it was just super fun customizing everything to my heart's content. Heck, if you already have a domain name, you could just transfer it over with their easy to use tools and do whatever you want with it. And if you're wanting to take whatever project you're working on seriously, the tools to track your growth, put together your own ad campaigns, integrate with social media platforms, everything you need to be a functioning business is right here and just as easy to understand. It's very little effort to get something clean and professional up in front of the world. Trust me, nothing feels quite as cool as having your own domain on a business card. And to make it even easier, if you head over to squarespace.com/gameapologist, you will get 10% off your first purchase. Thank you again to Squarespace for supporting the channel, and let's get back to it. Welcome back to Mecha March Madness, where we are spending the entire month of March talking about the mechanical clones in the world of Sonic. And you better believe there are plenty of them still to cover. But what if there was a robot that copied all of the main cast? Okay, well, I guess they actually did that a couple of times, but all the same, I accidentally stumbled across this robot last year during research for a different video I was doing. I had no idea what it was, but I loved this design, and it was evident this was something related to Sonic the Hedgehog, but I'd never seen it in any of the games or the shows. But just a little bit of digging showed me it actually came from the comics. So yes, this is also an episode of Sonic Speed Reading, but we aren't looking at another IDW book, not even Archie. Well, okay, technically we are looking at an Archie book. This was published by them, but this is not part of that main comic canon, except for that time it crossed over with it. Not important right now. To find out more about this bot, we have to turn to the short-lived Sonic X comic series, based around the anime of the same name. It's a pretty standard kids licensed tie-in book. Not much is said about it, but there are some fun ideas here and there, so we'll at least be sure to cover this particular set of books in a video all on its own. But for today, we are focusing squarely on issue 24 and its story, Camera Hog, written and illustrated by Tracy Yardley. Sonic and pals are guests on a daytime talk show, which just roll with it, and the Hedgehog just eats up all of the attention and adoration, getting a bit full of himself, which is obviously irritating to his homies, and the host presents them with an obstacle course to show off their abilities to the audience, which, again, just roll with it. Eggman and his robot flunkies disguise themselves as the camera crew, taking in data from the Rainbow Rats as they show off their skills on the course, which, yes, is obviously based off the many different levels from the Sonic games. Very cute touch. Once Sonic finishes up the last leg, the mystery bot has all the info it needs and sets off to take down our heroes. Sonic tells his friends to step aside, planning to tackle it himself, and we see from the robot's perspective that it has activated a Sonic mode and takes the Hedgehog down with one of his own moves, a spin attack. Knuckles attempts to jump in but is quickly knocked aside by the intense Sonic-styled speed of the robot. From there, Tails and Amy attempt to rush in, only to be blocked off by Sonic, still determined to take it out by himself, but unfortunately it switches to a Knuckles mode and further embarrasses the blue blur by knocking him in the face. Amy follows up with hammer swings, and the bot retreats up a wall, chased by Knuckles, but it switches to a Tails mode and flies off. And when it's met by the real Tails, it switches to an Amy mode, and its claws retract and its fists form into a hammer, slamming into the side of the fox's face. It lands on the ground, and Sonic rejoins the fight, and I love this little moment here. Since the bot is in Amy mode, it emotes a little heart when it sees Sonic, and then when Sonic smacks it, that same heart emoji is broken. It's just a cute little moment. I adored it. Chris Thorndike, who, yeah, is also here, points out that since it knows all their moves, it can predict all of their moves, so they need to do something unexpected. Sonic remains stubborn, but with one final smack in the face with a hammer fist, he finally admits they might do better if they all work together. And they do that by using Sonic as bait while everyone else jumps the bot at the same time. They throw it for a loop, not only ganging up on it, but by also getting creative with their own movesets, like Tails using the force of his propeller butt to push back against it, and Knuckles and Amy teaming up with a fastball special, slamming the bot into place while Sonic lands the finishing blow, ending the bot and Eggman's latest scheme. Sonic says sorry for being a dick, and the story ends. Yes, I did not talk about Chris Thorndike or his grandpa or whatever silly nonsense Eggman and his robots were getting up to. Not important. The story itself is pretty straightforward as well as its lesson. It's harmless fun for a kid's book, but we aren't actually here to analyze the narrative. We're here for the robot. It's a perfect foil to best help convey the message of teamwork this story is trying to convey, showing that no matter how capable Sonic is, he doesn't stand much of a chance against a robot that represents a perfect unified form of his team in one sleek package. But at the same time, that same robot is shown it can't be everything either. When Sonic and his friends team up, utilizing their strengths and weaknesses and how well each other knows that about the rest of their team, they come together to utilize their skills and creativity to take down this threat as a team. Again, this lesson is common for children's media, and the baddie taking on the powers of an entire supergroup is also nothing new, but still, this robot stood out to me. Sure, it's a villain of the week, which is nothing new for Sonic, but this is still a standout design. There's so much more effort here compared to a lot of other throwaway villains we've seen in plenty of other media, Sonic included. I really like this sleek white design with these red accents. This design is both simple and complicated, really emphasizing a lot of key traits of Sonic characters. And yeah, I'm sure plenty of us have had the idea of what if there was a robot that looked like all the different characters from Sonic the Hedgehog, but there's a clear understanding of Sonic character design here, and I just love it. I actually was a little frustrated to find out there really wasn't much else for this spot. They never really used it again. Well, okay, it did show up one more time at the end of the series, but it was still in a broken state, and it's just as an Easter egg. The main attention is given to a multi-dimensional Shadow and Metal Sonic. And it's only now dawning on me that this white robot is the closest Sonic X got to their own version of Metal Sonic. Kinda cool. But that's about it. Not much else is known about this robot. It doesn't even have a name, leading many to call it Robot X for obvious reasons. But hey, you know me. My hyperfixation wasn't going to let it stop there. I decided to reach out to its creator, the legendary Tracy Yardley, who was kind enough not only to answer a few questions I had, but also to expand on information that was already out there and show me things nobody else online has yet seen. I was going to go into character design or potential other ideas for what they could do with this, or try and get into the head of why it looks the way it does, but I think it's best if we hear from Tracy himself, so I'm just going to directly quote what he told me for a lot of this. I first asked him if he recalled any concepts leading up to the point of this final design, and why they landed on this clean white and red color scheme, and if there were any other plans to bring it back, if they had any other story ideas they just never got to, and even though it doesn't have a name, if there were any they were leaning towards. As Tracy put it, quote, "When I was writing the story, Mike Pellerito was still the editor. I don't recall if it was his idea or mine, but at first, the copy robot was visually based on Emerald, and I think we may have thought about making that a story point, but obviously didn't go that way. I wanted to do something sort of like Metal Sonic, but have a robot that could take on everyone else just besides Sonic. Because of that, it was a tough choice of what color it would be until the obvious choice was white, a neutral color, and one we don't see on many characters besides Rouge. The red highlights all denote an aspect of the four characters. The stripes in the shoes are for Sonic, Knuckles' chest stripe, the tips of the tails, and the headband for Amy. The heavy black lines in the joints I think I took from the Evangelion robots, which I just have to say, I love simple, clean designs like this, and I love the little nods to the characters in these red accents, because now that I think about it, I think the only consistent color between all four characters is red. There's at least a little bit of that color on every single one of them. And hey, if you want to get picky about it, you can also say that white is a consistent color as well, thanks to the gloves and the eyeballs. And as for the name, Tracy said, the only name I had seriously considered was Spectre, as in it's a ghostly copy, but we didn't think it really fit. I do like calling it Robot X. To me, Spectre implies something more stealthy, and that's not the point of this robot. But hey, for what it's worth, that's the closest we have for an official name for this thing. That's pretty cool. Tracy and I kept talking and said a few other things about the design, like how he was always unsure about how to portray Amy's hammer, and that's why he gave the final design blunt hands, so the knuckles could retract and the hammer could expand out from the things on the forearms. And as it turns out, they at least threw around the idea of bringing this robot back. As he says, quote, "So lastly, as I'm sure you know, the Sonic X book ended with Shadow dimension hopping around from the regular book to X to Universe while chasing Metal Sonic. Initially, Mike Pellerito had hoped to use a rebuilt Spectre instead and have it become a recurring villain robot in the Universe/regular book. It didn't happen, obviously. I don't recall why, if I ever even knew the actual reason. Sega probably just said no. So that was crazy to hear. I really would have loved that. I love this design, and yeah, we already have Metal Sonic and we have Metal Knuckles, a Tails doll, and I did love Metal Amy in the Archie book. So this one robot could make all of them seem redundant, but this is Sonic the Hedgehog, man. Robot doubles of Sonic are already redundant. Who cares? It's a shame this particular idea didn't see the light of day. I once said that Metal Knuckles was the most underutilized Sonic character out there, but the more I dig into the different robots, clearly that's not the case. But hey, that's not all. Tracy also gave me another couple tidbits on information I wasn't aware of. For instance, Camera Hog was the first comic book issue he had ever written, and he recalls that John Workman, the letterer of this story, had told him at a convention that this story was good and was told with succinct dialogue. And I have to agree. Yeah, we just blasted through it. It's a very simple story, but again, this is for kids. It's a lot of fun. The characters are on point, and while I say a million times I like my Sonic to be a little bit more of a jerk, I think that works well in this particular universe. And not only was this the first story that Tracy wrote, this was the first cover that he ever drew for the series. And along with number 35, these were the only two that he drew for Sonic X. Spaziante did every other cover in this series. So yeah, I know that doesn't directly relate to the robot we're talking about, but Tracy's a legend. He is one of the most important creators on the professional side of Sonic. I have to imagine these were pretty big moments in his professional career, and I'm honored he was willing to share those little factoids with me. That's really cool. And while we did get a bunch of new information about this silly little robot, that is not all. I saved the best for last because Tracy actually showed me prototype designs for this thing. Just take a look at these babies. We have this black and white one here with the hammer, and this one with the flat colors on here with a great color scheme, but clearly they went with a radically different design from either of these. And yes, for you hardcore Sonic fans, you might have already noticed, but Tracy did say the concepts were more generic Gizoid type robots. They were based off Emerald after all. These are copy bots, but they went in a different direction, and I'm just gonna flat out say it, I like these designs a bit more than the Gizoids. I mean, if it's gonna be a copy bot, I do want to see elements of the characters it's copying. Tracy said on his DeviantArt post of this same robot that it took a long time to get this design down. And you can tell a lot of care went into this. It feels like something from the Metal line, and you can see the obvious nods to the different characters here, but it's not a mess either, and it very easily could have been. We have Sonic's shoes, we have a more curved top that represents Amy. Even the robot Tails look nice, and I thought it was clever how they mixed both the face tufts of Tails and the dreadlocks of Knuckles and combined them together to make this line of spikes that wraps around the bottom of the head. I just adore it. And yeah, it breaks my heart because while I'm always going to root for the freedom fighters, I can't imagine us ever seeing this particular robot again. It wasn't around long enough to really build a strong fan base. But hey, I'm glad it's here at all. And I'm so thankful that Tracy was so forthcoming with this information, showing just how much genuine care and effort has to go into every little thing they do for these books. I don't know who owns the rights to this. Archie might own the rights to the design. Sega might own the rights to the design. If that's the case, I really hope they utilize it on some level. That would be amazing. Hashtag rally for Robot X. Hashtag save Spectre. But hey, that's going to do it for today, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Extra special thank you to Tracy Yardley. It was an honor talking to you. Thank you again for all this new fun information. Thank you for the robot to begin with. Thank you to all the amazing skill and talent you've contributed to this world that we love so much. I'll have a link to his Twitter if you're not already following him. Give him a follow. Go check out his work. It is everywhere and it's worth your time. And thank you to all the patrons who support this channel. An extra special thank you to these fine folks right here: Kyle Winter, Cirrus the Skeptic, Joseph Duncan, Sonic 2, Blue, John, Josh Strider, Casey X, Faizan Razul, Hatsworth, Tiny Jericho, Jack of All Spades, Tristan Trapp, Meekers, Dun Dun, Quote, Resident Fanboy, Miles the Prower, Jeremy Singer, Mr. Boo J, Sam Webster, Dwight Graham, Fishflop, Lucas Lipker, The Bad Pal, Jonathan Dobbs, Cloverhood, Haley, Mr. Dr. SP, Doctorate Pending, Cecil the Gallade, The Dark Neon, Stefan Plakanica, 3 Monic, Graham J. Hall, Lenny X, Wayne is Boss, Jamie Chevalier, Lederick, Hello, Jimmy Duke STR, The Lumberjack, Can He Hear Me? Please, if you can hear me, you're in a coma and the doctors are about to pull the plug, you have to give me a sign you're still in there. NBTV, Mute, Trash Baphomet, Autumn from Twitter.com, SSG, Infinite Sonic. That Pyromane has run out of funny ways to try and entice Icky Nicky to play Xenoblade Chronicles and is accepting suggestions. Pyra, I already told you I'm going to play it. It's just a matter of finding the time to do it. If there's a giant turtle continent, that's enough for me. I'm good. It's gonna happen. Jin Sayotame, Botan, I'm not reading that, Nezend, Enerjack 5, Grayson Coniger, Spades the Nocturne, Ken K, Ven 101, Paxton Bizbeast, and Darren 7, Stevie Cole, 3 Rule 4, Twilord, Number 1 Boss Baby Fan, Paisley, Eric Delgado, Cody Gracious, Kodinsky, Jamo Art, PK Durbar, Crimson Rose, Give Up Your Children, Separate, Sonic PAJ, Muniscent, Azagard Lagan, Called Turn Azagard Lagan. I still messes with my brain, I don't know why. You don't have much time, move your hand, wiggle your big toe, the American healthcare system is a cesspool of villainy, work with me here. Roxas the Cat, Godzilla, Makuta of Salt, Glean the Anomaly, Alexander Watson, Calais Presley, Neil Gampa, Conan Kudo, Aeon 3 Valafor, Tenric Terror, Butt Sex, LLX, the comic creator. Check out my charity merch store at llxstore.com. And dude, you probably want to remove one of those periods from your name there. And Native Nerd 27. Once again, thank you guys so much for the support. I am completely humbled. You are all amazing. And yes, we do have the Second Frontiers video that will be coming out at some point soon, but I still have some fun videos planned for the rest of Mecha March Madness this year, so be sure you stick tuned to that. I'll catch you all next time. Toot toot, Sonic Warriors.